So
There we
stream
go.
over.
No stream. It's actually recording right now. All right, ladies and gents. So let's go ahead and dive into the story itself. I'm saying ladies because I'm sure there will be a lady probably that will watch this, and not just you gentlemen. All right. So let's go ahead and dive straight into this. Going off just the title itself, The Adventure of the Noble Bachelor. Go ahead and underline this as I am underlining it as well. Feel free to write all over these. You have large margins for a reason. Okay? So, noble and bachelor. Can someone please tell me what a bachelor is? One of my 3 students here.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you. I have no idea.
You have no idea what a bachelor is?
No, I have no idea what it is.
Jeremias?
Not talking about like a bachelor's degree.
Sorry?
Does it like relate to a bachelor's degree?
No, it does not relate to a bachelor's degree. You got anything? No? Okay, all right. Well, a bachelor is a man who is single and looking for a woman.
Oh,
All
nice.
right? It's a bachelor. All right? So a bachelor is a single man.
Oh, I'm saying.
A single man. That's what a bachelor is. All right? That's it. That's it.
So a noble.
You knew it, then say it. It's okay.
A noble single man.
Now, a noble, y'all know what that is? A noble?
No, I have no idea.
What?
Ask me, I ain't rich. Talk about
Oh, it's not about being wealthy. A noble is someone who is royal.
that's still the same thing, man.
No. You don't just become royalty just because you have money. Or else all the millionaires in America would be royalty, and they're not. So we have the adventure of the royal single man. Essentially is what we're getting at here. All right? So let's look at what this is going, where this is going when it comes to the story itself. We're introduced to the bachelor very, very early with the Lord Saint Simon marriage and his curious termination have long ceased to be a subject of interest in those exalted circles in which the unfortunate bridegroom moves. All right? So, the Lord Saint Simon marriage. Now, this is going to be our main character here is Lord Saint Simon. All of that, I hate saying his name, so I'm just going to say Simon. We're going to be buddy-buddy here. He's not a lord to me. So the Lord Saint Simon marriage and its curious termination. What does terminate mean? Think about the Terminator. What does he do? Kill. End, right? Get rid of. So termination means to end. Have long ceased to be a subject of interest in those exalted circles in which the unfortunate bridegroom moves. The Lord Saint Simon, or Simon, is a bridegroom. That means he is a fiancé. He is married. Fresh scandals have eclipsed it, and the more piquant details have drawn the gossips away from this 4-year-old drama. We're getting straight into our story. If you want to go ahead and join us. Thankfully, you came in at a decent time. I'm also recording it, so your voice may more than likely get picked up, all right? I know, scary. All right, so fresh scandals have eclipsed it, and the more piquant details have drawn the gossips away from this 4-year-old drama. So we know this happened 4 years ago. That tells us the time part of our setting. It's not recent. This is kind of long ago where this happened. Can y'all even think of a scandal or an issue that happened 4 years ago?
People getting smacked too hard on Instagram.
People getting smacked too hard on Instagram? Okay. All right. How about 4 years ago, Vine was still alive?
Oh, yeah. I was 12.
You were 12. My goodness, I feel old. Okay? Now, does anyone talk about Vine anymore?
Yeah.
Sometimes I be looking for it on
Some
YouTube.
people on YouTube, maybe, if you can find some old videos of Vine. But nowadays, it's all going to be about TikTok. That's kind of gone above and beyond. It has, that's the fresh scandal that has eclipsed Vine, all right? And before TikTok, there was Musical.ly. Before Musical.ly, there was something else, right? So, things pass by, just like this St. Simon's marriage. As I have reason to believe, however, that the full facts have never been revealed to the general public. As my friend Sherlock Holmes has a considerable share in clearing the matter up, I feel that no memoir of him would be complete without some little sketch of this remarkable episode. So we're going to have this character I, who is the person writing these stories.
Can I get a highlighter?
Yes, there's some down in my desk. All right. Do y'all know who is the narrator? Who's the I? We talked about this earlier this week.
Some.
Which one? The top one?
You should be the top one, I believe. If not there, just go to the bottom one. So who's the I? Who writes all of Sherlock Holmes' stories?
His friend.
His friend.
Yeah.
What's his name?
I don't know.
He was a doctor.
Dr. Watson.
Watson. Yes, thank you very much. So our narrator is Watson. So you could say, as Watson has reason to believe, however, that the full facts have never been revealed to the general public. And we know that Sherlock Holmes is the one who really solved this mystery. His name has been kind of left out. So that's why Watson is sharing the story now. It was a few weeks before my own marriage, during the days when I was still sharing rooms with Holmes in Baker Street, that he came home from an afternoon stroll to find a letter on the table waiting for him. I had remained indoors all day, for the weather had taken a sudden turn to rain, with high autumnal winds. And the Jezebel bullet, which I had brought back in one of my limbs, as a relic of my Afghan campaign, throbbed with dull persistence. So we get a little bit of the reason why Dr. Watson stayed at home. So why did he stay at home here? Just read it.
Because of the rain.
Because of the rain, right? Not only just because of the rain, the high autumnal winds, the Jezebel bullet, which I had brought back in one of my limbs, as a relic of my Afghan campaign, throbbed with dull persistence. His limbs were hurting. His old wound was hurting because he was shot in the war. So this old wound of his hurts whenever it gets cold. So he stayed at home. I think we can kind of connect to that because we've all been stuck at home and been really bored before, more than likely.
Yes.
And usually whenever you start getting bored, what do you end up just doing on your phone? Usually just flipping through, scrolling through Instagram or Facebook or whatever it is
Especially TikTok.
or TikTok, okay? Right. That's all you end up doing. Same thing with Dr. Watson. Now, he didn't have TikTok. Instead, he had newspapers. So with my body in one easy chair and my legs upon another, I had surrounded myself with a cloud of newspapers, until at last, saturated with the news of the day, I tossed them all aside and lay listless, watching the huge crest and monogram upon the envelope upon the table, and wondering lazily who my friend's noble correspondent could be. Now, this is a time where most people would sit there and actually write out a full letter. And they would have, if you could pay for a monogrammed envelope, a crest and monogram on your envelope, then you are really dang wealthy. You're probably rich or you are a noble. Here is a very fashionable epistle, I remarked as he entered. Your morning letters, if I remember right, were from a fishmonger and a tide waiter. So, an epistle, fancy word here for a letter. He said, your letters came from these two really strange messengers. Yes, my correspondence has certainly the charm of variety, he answered, smiling. And the humbler are usually the more interesting. This looks like one of those unwelcome social summonses, which call upon a man either to be bored or to lie. So this is a social summons. It's like whenever you get a call from your mom or your dad or someone from down the hall, they're like, come meet whoever is at the door. And you're like, oh, I have to drag myself out of my bed or wherever you are to go talk to some random person. That's a social summons right there. And usually whenever you're summoned like that, you're either going to be super bored the whole time or you're going to end up lying. Oh yeah, I'm doing all my schoolwork. Looking at some of y'all. Okay? I know not all of you do your schoolwork. He broke the seal and glanced over the contents. Oh, come, it may prove to be something of interest after all. Not social, then. No, distinctly professional. And from a noble client? One of the highest in England. My dear fellow, I congratulate you. I assure you, Watson, without affectation, that the status of my client is a matter of less moment to me than the interest of this case. It is just possible, however, that also may not be wanting in this new investigation. You have been reading the papers diligently of late, have you not? It looks like it, said I ruefully, pointing to a huge bundle in the corner. I have had nothing else to do. So, we kind of get this basic understanding of what's happening so far. We do know that Dr. Watson has gone through all the recent newspapers, all the recent scandals, because he's bored to death while he's sitting at home. And whenever he welcomes back Sherlock Holmes back to the apartment, Sherlock Holmes has something interesting that he would like Watson to help him out with. All right? So, go ahead and go to the next page. It is fortunate, for you will perhaps be able to post me up. I read nothing except the criminal news and the agony column. The latter is always instructive, but if you have followed recent events so closely, you must have read about Lord St. Simon and his wedding. Oh yes, with the deepest interest. That's just well. The letter which I hold in my hand is from Lord St. Simon. I will read it to you, and in return you must turn over these papers and let me have whatever bears upon the matter. This is what he says. So we see that Sherlock Holmes is going to be working with Lord St. Simon on whatever he has. And this is the letter that he just received from him, asking him for help. My dear Mr. Sherlock Holmes, Lord Backwater tells me that I may place implicit reliance upon you, upon your judgment and discretion. I have determined, therefore, to call upon you and to consult you in reference to the very painful event which has occurred in connection with my wedding. Mr. Lestrade of Scotland Yard is acting already in the matter, but he assures me that he sees no objection to your cooperation, and that he even thinks that it might be of some assistance. I will call at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and should you have any other engagement at that time, I hope that you will postpone it, as this matter is of paramount importance. Yours faithfully, Robert St. Simon. So, we get introduced to a brand new character we have never mentioned before when it comes to Sherlock Holmes in all of his stories. We get introduced here to Mr. Lestrade of Scotland Yard. Scotland Yard is what they call the police agency inside London. They can range almost anywhere around Britain itself, and they can go anywhere and solve crimes, essentially. They have no jurisdiction, it seems like, most of the time. So Mr. Lestrade is a detective. And he knows Sherlock Holmes pretty well. It is dated from Grosvenor Mansions, written with a quill pen, and the noble lord has had the misfortune to get a smear of ink upon the outer right of his right little finger, remarked Holmes as he folded up the epistle. He says 4 o'clock. It is 3 now. He will be here in an hour. Then I have just time with your assistance to get clear upon the subject. Turn over those papers and arrange the extracts in their order of time, while I take a glance as to who our client is. So, real quick, in this paragraph, we are going to get info on St. Simon's family. It was really popular in this day and age that if you were from royalty, then your royal line, your lineage, could be traced back, and they would have information on you all the way back to your great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather or grandmother or anything like that. They could actually pull a book out and look your name up and where your family came from.
Ooh, that's cool.
It's pretty cool. That's one thing that royalty has. So that's what this whole paragraph is going to be about. He picked a red-covered volume from a line of books of reference beside the mantelpiece. Here he is, said he, sitting down and flattening it out upon his knee. Lord Robert Waslingham de Vere St. Simon, Goodness gracious, look at that name. That's a long one. Second son of the Duke of Balmoral. Why is it important that he's the second son?
He's the second in line.
He's the second in line. That means when his father dies, will he get anything?
Yes.
No.
Oh.
Remember, because he's the second son. There's a first one in front of him.
Oh.
So if his father dies, his brother will get all of the rights that his father had. So he would have to have his father die, then his brother die, and then he could get something. So that is really important to make sure that we remember, at least for the future reference here. His coat of arms, Abzura, 3 caltrops in chief over a fest sable. Born in 1846, he's 41 years of age, which is mature for marriage. How many people do y'all know who are 41 and get married for the first time? You? You know one? Yeah. It's interesting. Usually it's more common for marriage to be a younger person's thing, usually from 22-ish to about 35-ish, usually. You don't usually see many people getting married late, that late at least. What's that?
I couldn't get married.
You couldn't get married?
I don't.
I get married at 20.
At 20? Okay, all right. You only have like what, in 4 or 5 years? You're 16 now? All right. So he's 41 years of age, which is mature for marriage. He was undersecretary for the colonies in a late administration. The Duke, his father, was at one time secretary for foreign affairs. They inherit Plantagenet blood by direct descent and Tudor on the distant side. Ha! Well, there is nothing very instructive in all this. I think that I must return to you, Watson, for something more solid. So, while we get a lot of information, is it useful? No, he even says it right here. Well, there is nothing very instructive in all this. All we get is just basic information, which is interesting, but it's not really important for us right now. I have very little difficulty in finding what I want, said I, for the facts are quite recent, and the matter struck me as remarkable. I feared to refer them to you, however, as I knew that you had an inquiry on hand, and that you disliked the intrusion of other matters. So the reason why Dr. Watson did not share this type of strange stories, strange incidents, is because he was worried that Holmes wouldn't care, because Holmes was already working on something else, which makes sense. Next page. Oh, you mean that little problem of the Grosvenor Square furniture bank? That is quite cleared up now, though. Indeed, it was obvious from the first. Pray, give me the results of your newspaper selections. Here's the first notice, which I can find. It is in the personal column of the Morning Post, and dates, as you see, some weeks back. Notice right here that we see a lot of great punctuation happening, all right? We start off with the double quotation marks, which is normal. We're supposed to here. And finally, whenever he starts reading out through the newspaper, he uses single quotation marks. That's very important to make sure you're doing as well, because these are not his words. They're the newspaper's words. So he cannot claim them by not having those. He needs to make sure he has those quotation marks, since he is the one who is not saying that. He does this a number of times. Oh, here we go. So let's see what this Morning Post newspaper has to say. And marriage has been arranged, it says, and will, if rumor is correct, very shortly take place between Lord Robert St. Simon, second son of the Duke of Balmoral, and Miss Hattie Doran, the only daughter of Aloysius Doran. Aloysius Doran, Esquire of San Francisco, California, USA. That is all. Terse and to the point, remarked Holmes, stretching his long, thin legs toward the fire. This is an interesting word here, terse. What phrase can we use to help us identify what that word means or define it?
Directly, like straight to the point.
Yeah, look at just right next to the point. Terse and to the point. So to the point tells us kind of what terse means. Terse means to say something really quickly, really compacted. It's straight to the point. Terse and to the point, remarked Holmes, stretching his long, thin legs toward the fire. There was a paragraph amplifying this in one of the society papers of the same week. Ah, here it is. Amplifying, right here. It's another kind of slightly large word. If you ever need to work with this word, take it apart. We have amplify. What do you know is an amp? What does an amp do?
Makes things louder.
Yeah, it's like whenever you have a guitar and you plug it into an amp to make the guitar louder. There you go. So to make larger. Usually in reference to sound. For instance, Miss Stafford's voice was amplified this morning to a really high degree, right? She needs maybe to slightly back off from that microphone, just a little bit. So this was a paragraph amplifying this, or making this little section larger in a different paper. And this is what that different paper says. There will soon be a call for protection in the marriage market, for the present free trade principle appears to tell heavily against our home product. That sentence there can be really confusing if you don't understand some of the things. Where is home? What country do they call home? Dr. Watson and Sherlock Holmes. Not just their apartment. Where's their apartment? What country is their apartment in?
London?
Yeah, okay, that's the city, right? And that's
No.
England, right? So we have England, London's the city, their apartment, of course, is where this is taking place right now. But they live in England. What do they have in England that we don't have in America?
Pounds.
Big tower.
A big tower. We have plenty of big towers.
Pounds.
Pounds, that's their type of money. Yeah.
I have pounds.
We have pounds.
They have kings and queens.
That's what I'm working with you. They have kings and queens while we do not. That's the one thing that they have that we necessarily don't have. We don't have that product, which is royalty or being a noble. We don't have that. What's up?
You know, we do have a president, so that's basically our king right there.
We have a president, yes, but we don't have royalty, right?
My king is up there.
Your king is up there. Okay, there you go. I like that. I really like that, okay? So this message, this little paragraph in this article is saying that apparently all the royal lines are getting shifted away from England into America, which is really interesting. One by one, the management of the noble houses, royalty, of Great Britain is passing into the hands of our fair cousins from across the Atlantic. That's us, the fair cousins, because we're the cousins of England, right?
Wait.
Yeah, because England is the one who colonized America. So we're like cousins, not brother and sister, but cousins. We're kind of alike.
Oh, so we step cousins, something like that, right?
Sure, if that's how you want to go with it, okay? An important addition has been made during the last week to the list of the prizes which have been borne away by these charming invaders. Again, Americans. Lord St. Simon, who has shown himself for over 20 years proof against the little god's arrows. In stories, who is the little god who has arrows?
Oh, Robin Hood.
Not just Robin Hood, that's the name. Cupid, all right? Robin Hood is not a god. But they usually try to say Cupid is the little god with arrows who shoots people and they can fall in love.
Oh, yeah, that's that guy.
There you go.
Yeah, that was
Has now definitely announced his approaching marriage with Miss Hattie Doran, the fascinating daughter of a California millionaire. Oh, so why is this man marrying Miss Hattie Doran? For her, we obviously know this is a big thing here.
Millionaire.
Her father is a millionaire. Let me tell you, if my wife's father was a millionaire, that's kind of nice. Especially as
That
a
don't mean
teacher.
you gonna get the money.
money don't pay.
As a teacher, that's kind of nice.
So you would quit your job. And just
Especially if, I probably wouldn't quit my job. All right, let's keep going, though. Miss Doran, whose graceful figure and striking face attracted much attention at the Westbury House festivities, is an only child. Oh, so not only is her father a millionaire, but she's an only child. So that means that if I marry
Wife is good.
her and her father dies, who gets all the money?
Both of y'all.
We do, right? Not only is it just she gets the money, but now I get some of that money too. So we get some interesting things going on here. And it is currently reported that her dowry will run to considerably over the 6 figures. All right, so there's 2 words here that I want to cover. All right, dowry. You know what that is? It's an old term now.
Yeah.
I've heard it.
Can you give
You've
us
heard the word?
Yeah,
I ain't never
too.
heard that word.
So that word is older, as I said, and it's out of fashion now. But what would happen a lot of times in this day and age would be that if a man had a daughter, he would pay, or essentially he would gift a large sum of money to the man who's going to marry her, so they could have a good life together. They could start up shop well. Makes kind of sense. Make sure that his daughter is covered, and then make sure that he's not forcing anything upon the man. So it was kind of like a gift. Here we go. A gift to a daughter's husband for taking her. A lot of times, some people would get married just for the dowry, just for the money out of it, which is sad, but sometimes true in this one. Now, here's the thing. Her dowry will run considerably over 6 figures. Y'all know what 6 figures looks like? Well, this is 1 figure. This is 1 number, all right? If I add 5 more figures,
Oh snap!
Oh, that's what you're talking
meant
about.
so that's 6 figures. If I only made, let's say, a 5-figure salary, and that could be anywhere between probably 10,000 to 99,000. Okay, that's a 5-figure. This is a 6-figure. And here's the thing, though. It says this is over the 6 figures. A lot of money there.
That's a lot of
Yo,
money.
pay
Now,
me.
did they use dollars like we did?
No.
No, because we've already discussed they use pounds, and they have a very fancy like L-shaped thing for that. Okay. Let me tell you though, this was in 1890, so we have to adjust for inflation. Now, luckily, I already did the math for you, and yes, that means me doing math for you means that I'm really interested. Okay, that's the only way I can do this. So I'm going to go ahead and erase what I have up here so that we can see it whenever I bring it up on the board.
Okay.
What this looks like in today's money.
I wonder.
Let me tell you, it's disgusting. It's just, it made me almost kind of sick to my stomach, right?
How?
Oh, how? Okay. So, 100,000 pounds in 1890, adjusted for inflation for 2020, is currently worth 12. Should be. There you go. It's currently worth $12,934,583.64. 64 cents, essentially. Okay.
I need to go to England and I need to get that much money.
You
then I
need to be
come
in
back.
England in 1890 to make 100,000 pounds.
Hey, no.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
Hey, we get.
Let me tell
How
you,
we gonna do that?
it's just as hard. Because if I did the same inflation model for my paycheck, I would only be in 1890. I'd only be making about 217 pounds per year. Yeah. So everything's adjusted. Okay.
Alright.
Now, what does this look like in American dollars, though? Okay, because we have to go from English pounds to American dollars. Well, if we do that,
I'll show
go
you
over.
that. I should do that.
Here we go. As of right now, the American dollar is worth $1.28 is worth 1 pound. So if we take that number of pounds, put it here, that's $16,613,114.55.
What?
That's how much this dowry was worth. That's how much buying power it
I
had.
give me a house, a car, get my hair, get my ooh, I get it. Y'all
So-
want some money.
No, so lazy.
I'm giving you Did I really miss
You
some money?
can
You mean my
anything.
phone? Yeah, I'd be
Right.
ready to go home.
You could live your entire life perfectly fine. Your kids could live their entire lives, so on and so forth, and be perfectly healthy, right? Like for a couple generations. Or you can go crazy for one generation and spend all. Okay?
Yes,
I'm
I'm
sure
going
my
crazy
kids
on
will
my
not
kids.
So that was how
Especially
much her dowry was, how much the husband would receive for marrying her. Almost $17 million.
That's enough too.
I'm telling you, if I got $17 million for marrying my wife, one, she's worth that much, but that's a lot of money. Not gonna lie there, okay? With expectancies for the future. So he is expecting to get more.
Rich.
Right. As it is an open secret that the Duke of Balmoral, or Simon's father, it's going to be Simon's dad. There you go. Remember, he's the second son, so he's not going to get anything from his dad. But how much money does his dad owe? Just because he's royalty, let's see how much. It is an open secret that the Duke of Balmoral has been compelled to sell his pictures within the last few years. Why would you sell family pictures?
Well, I wouldn't. That's weird.
Some dude with a fetish probably.
No, okay, nothing like that. Okay. Now he is selling his family pictures, or he sell his pictures because he is completely out of money. His dad is dirt poor and having to sell everything in the house so that they can live.
That's how celebrities do for real.
Some celebrities, yeah. Heck, some of the YouTube celebrities, if you look inside their houses when they do house tours, they're like empty. They're like, there's nothing in there. Same thing here. Well, yes, he is famous, he is royalty. Simon's dad has no money. So all this massive $17 million cash flow would be really nice for Simon. And as Lord St. Simon has no property of his own, save a tiny small estate of Birchmoor, it is obvious that the Californian heiress is not the only gainer by an alliance, which will enable her to make the easy and common transition from a Republican lady to a British peeress. So she is getting out of this something too. She goes from just being a regular everyday American who's wealthy to getting to be English royalty. So she's gaining something as well. Simon's gaining money. She's gaining, royalty and that noble title. Anything else? Asked Holmes, yawning. Oh yes, plenty. Then there was another note in the Morning Post to say that the marriage would be an absolutely quiet one. If you had $17 million just to blow, just like, let's just do whatever you want to, would you make your wedding quiet?
Yeah.
No.
You would?
Yes.
Not too many people would. I think if you have that much money,
I'd be fancy.
make a big fancy wedding, sure, right? But this is going to be a quiet one. And that it would be at St. George's, Hanover Square, that only half a dozen intimate friends would be invited. How many is half a dozen? 6 people at your wedding? That's it?
That's lame.
My wedding was a tiny wedding, and it still had like 200 guests.
See, this is why I said.
All right.
That's
So
because they
only
could've went to the party and
6.
got married.
Only 6 people there. And at the party, instead of going out into the town, would return to the furnished house at Lancaster Gate, which has been taken by Mr. Aloysius Doran, so the bride's father. 2 days later, that is, on Wednesday last, there is a curt announcement that the wedding had taken place and that the honeymoon would, next page, be passed at Lord Backwater's place near Petersfield. Those are all the notices which appeared before the disappearance of the bride. Whoa! That's everything we get before all of a sudden the bride disappeared. This bride was worth how much?
Almost
17.
17 million. And she disappeared. What?
Wait, what?
Before the what? Asked Holmes with a start. The vanishing of the lady. When did she vanish then? At the wedding breakfast. So this is something that we, in our common day ideas, don't really fully understand. During that day and age, it was really common to get married super early in the morning and then right afterwards have a breakfast. like a midday breakfast, and that's where your guests would be. That's kind of your reception, in essence, would be a wedding breakfast instead. So as soon as she got married, just a few hours later, she was gone. Indeed, this is more interesting than it promised to be. Quite dramatic, in fact. Yes, it struck me as being a little out of the common. They often vanish before the ceremony. Why would someone who's getting married leave before the ceremony?
I wonder.
Great question. What is a ceremony?
Like a wedding ceremony, a procession, event?
No idea. I never got married.
Well, hopefully
It's
it's
a
got
sacred
married.
event, basically.
It's an event, all right? So why would someone get vanished before they get married?
She probably didn't want to get married.
Because they didn't want to get married, exactly. They had cold feet, is what it's called. They just ran, all right? It does happen. It does happen. And occasionally during the honeymoon. So sometimes people end up dying on honeymoons,
Oh.
right?
What?
It happens, yeah. What if I got married just for money? And hey, I married you, it's all signed. I don't need you anymore, though. You're dead, all right? And it's happened, okay? But I cannot call to mind anything quite so prompt as this. Pray, let me have the details. Okay, so let's have the details of what happened during this wedding ceremony, what happened afterwards.
But that explains why he was so cheap with the wedding.
Maybe, we don't know, but that could point something out. I warn you that they are very incomplete. Perhaps we may make them less so. Such as they are set forth in a single article of a morning paper of yesterday, which I will read to you. It is headed, Singular Occurrence at a Fashionable Wedding. So now we're going to get the article, the news article, about what happened at this wedding. To help clarify everything, I'm going to put everything on this side of the board. If you want to put it in the smaller sections around your paper, you may do so. The family of Lord Robert St. Simon has been thrown into the greatest consternation by the strange and painful episodes which have taken place in connection with his wedding. The ceremony, as certainly announced in the papers of yesterday, occurred on the previous morning, but it is only now that it has been possible to confirm the strange rumors which have been so persistently floating about, in spite of the attempts of the friends to hush the matter up. So much public attention has now been drawn to it that no good purpose can be served by affecting to disregard what is a common subject for conversation. All right, so people have tried to cover this up, but everyone's talking about it, so here it is. The ceremony, which was performed at St. George's, Hanover Square, was a very quiet one. No one being present save the father of the bride, Mr. Aloysius Doran. So we had that for first person. The Duchess of Balmoral, so the groom's mother. The Lord Backwater, that's our third person. Lord Eustace and Lady Clara St. Simon, that's like the brother and sister. The younger brother and the sister of the bridegroom, and Lady Alicia Whittington. It's going to be our sixth person. Okay, so our 6 party attenders. The whole party proceeded afterwards to the house of Mr. Aloysius Doran, or the father of the bride, at Lancaster Gate, where breakfast had been prepared. It appears that some little trouble was caused by a woman, whose name was not been ascertained, who endeavored to force her way into the house after the bridal party, alleging that she had some claim upon Lord St. Simon. All right. So first thing we had is the wedding. Simple, only 6 people. All right. After the wedding, they went to the bride's father's house. While they were there, they were accosted by this random woman. Who claims to know the groom. The groom or the husband, the man who has just been married. The bride is the woman who's been married. The groom is the man who's just been married, or who's about to get married.
I got a question.
Mm-hmm.
Why do they throw racist way.
That's a classic thing, and I never understood that. The rice. I'm sure there's supposed to be some type of meaning to it, but I don't know it personally. I think for with my wife and I think we did bubbles for my wife and I. We did bubbles.
That's fancy.
I know, right? We're so fancy. Because I'm obviously such a fancy person. So this strange woman alleged that she had some claim upon Lord St. Simon, the groom, random woman. We don't know who she is. It was only after a painful and prolonged scene that she was ejected by the butler and the footman. The bride, who had fortunately entered the... Go to the next page. The footman was like he would be the person who would be at the front door, making sure people could get in well, let them out of their carriages.
Oh, so a bouncer.
Kind of, yeah. Think of a bouncer.
So since he's a footman, does he like kick?
No, he does not kick people. No. All right, so the bride who entered the house before this unpleasant interruption had sat down to breakfast with the rest, when she complained of a sudden indisposition and retired to her room. So after this random woman claims to know the groom, she makes a big fuss. The bride claims to have a stomach ache, or she claims to have and be in pain. Claims to be sick, and leaves. Interesting. Her prolonged absence having caused some comment, her father followed her, but learned from her maid that she had only come up to her chamber for an instant, caught up in ulster and bonnet, or an outer gown and a hat, and hurried down to the passage. One of the footmen declared that he had seen a lady leave the house, thus apparelled, but had refused to credit that it was his mistress, believing her to be with the company. On ascertaining or figuring out that his daughter had disappeared, Mr. Aloysius Doran, in conjunction with the bridegroom, instantly put themselves in communication with the police. So, the bride claims to be sick and leaves. Everyone learns that she left and promptly freak out and contact the police. So that's the order of events that we have, all right? There's just a little bit left here at the end. And every energetic inquiries are being made, which will probably result in a speedy clearing up of this very single business. Up to a late hour last night, however, nothing had transpired as to the whereabouts of the missing lady. There are rumors of foul play in the matter, and it is said that the police have caused the arrest of the woman who had caused the original disturbance, in the belief that from jealousy or some other motive, she may have been concerned in the strange disappearance of the bride. And that's it. So the random lady is now caught. The random lady is in jail. That's it. That's all we know. And is that all? Only one little item in another of the morning papers, but it is a suggestive one. So there's only one little piece of information left. And it is that Miss Flora Millar, the lady who had caused the disturbance, has actually been arrested. So we actually get her name. The random lady here, RL, is Miss Flora Millar. Now here's where we get a little bit sketchy, okay? So work with me here. It appears that she was formerly a danseuse at the Allegro. So this word here, a danseuse at the Allegro, she was a dancer at a place called the Allegro. Why would a bachelor of a man, bachelor, seeking a wife, go to a place where women dance?
Oh, he was.
There you go. Stop it there. All right. I'm alluding. This is school appropriate. Okay. This is just a story.
I thought
Okay.
he was.
Okay, so just keep it there for me.
Thinking negative.
Everything is getting recorded, so
I'm
be
just
careful.
trying to let you know what he was doing.
It's all recorded, so be careful. Okay.
It's muted.
So, and that she, Miss Laura Millar, has known the bridegroom for some years.
Oh.
So they've known each other for quite some time. This Miss Laura Miller and the bridegroom are the groom, the husband now, Saint Simon. There are no further particulars, and the whole case is in your hands now, so far as it has been set forth in the public press. An exceedingly interesting case it appears to be. I will not have missed it for worlds. But there is a ring at the bell, Watson, and as the clock makes it a few minutes after 4, I have no doubt that this will prove to be our noble client. Do not dream of going, Watson, for I very much prefer having a witness, if only as a check to my own memory. So we have the introduction of this character, Robert St. Simon. This is the first time we're going to get introduced to him. We know him now and what has happened in his life, the scandal, but we don't have a description of him. Here's where we get one.
Okay.
Lord Robert St. Simon, announced our page boy, throwing open the door. A gentleman entered, with a pleasant, cultured face, high-nosed, and pale. So, we have this guy who walks in. He has a very pale complexion. He's high-nosed. He's cultured, all this type of stuff. And pale. These are the two most common words when it comes to royalty, when they get described. This guy's a lord. So, when he is royalty. Usually royalty in this day and age were pale, because they stayed indoors all the time. You would only be associated with being poor if you got dark. If you got the darker skin, you were the poor you were in this day and age. This is England. Also, notice that he is high-nosed. Okay, so when he walks in, he's not just looking at you normally. He is looking down at you. High-nosed, right? High-nosed and pale, with something perhaps of petulance, or I'm thinking I'm better than you, about the mouth, and with a steady, well-opened eye, the man whose pleasant lot it had ever been to command and to be obeyed. So he is used. As soon as he walked in, you get this idea of this guy is a jerk. He probably he tells people what to do, and they do it. Because they kind of have to, because he's royalty.
Yeah, that does fit him, so it's going to be.
All right, yeah. Don't go there, okay? His manner was brisk, and yet now, we don't really get too much besides that, maybe how he acts. Let's get his actual physical looks. His manner was brisk, and yet his general appearance gave an undue impression of age. So he looked really old. But he's only 41. Is that super old?
Yeah, I feel old.
you feel old now? Or you feel that's old?
I feel this old.
Okay, well, 41 is not super old. I think super old, into the 80s and the 90s is really old, maybe 70s. But this guy looks older than he is, for he had a slight forward stoop. So instead of just standing up straight, he was slightly stooped a little bit. All right.
So yeah, he definitely looks old.
No, it's not funny. Not only that, okay, and a little bend of the knees as he walked. So he looked like an old man. He is stooped a little bit, his knees bent some while he walked. It's kind of goofy looking, okay? Hold it in, Tom.
It's not funny, no. It's not funny.
So,
Not funny.
he looked super old. To help with this, after he takes his hat off, after he swept off his very curly brimmed hat, was grizzled around the edges, so he had gray hair, and thin upon the top. So not only was he gray in the hair, he was also really thin hair. Kind of like I do. As you can see, I have that bald spot, all right?
Wait, I'm slow. Why is it funny?
It's because what type of man needed to go to the to the dancers club? Okay, all right. So I didn't say anything. No one can prove it. Okay, I didn't say anything. Okay. As to his dress, it was careful to the verge of foppishness. This is such a fun word to say, foppishness. Foppishness.
Right. German.
I know, it sounds very German. It does. Now, can anyone shoot a guess about what that means?
He flopped.
He flops when he walks. No. Now, as it is used right here, foppishness is almost like overdressed. He's trying too hard.
Oh.
You know, it's like whenever
Ooh, like the word.
you may not have done this before. If you ever dress up in like a tux and go to Walmart, you feel really weird, right? It's strange. I have a really close friend of mine who dresses like that all the time. Not in a tux, but he dresses up like bow tie, button shirt, always tucked in shirt, always nice, super shiny. He even has blue suede shoes, like literal, real blue suede shoes. He wears all the time. He's a fop. Okay, he dresses foppish, really overly done. All right, so let's look at how he is dressed on the next page.
Ooh, I wonder.
He is dressed with a high collar, so his collar is really high, a black frock coat, a white waistcoat, yellow gloves, patent leather shoes, and light-colored gaiters. He advanced slowly into the room, turning his head from left to right. You have a question?
I just figured this out. He's the penguin of a Batman.
That's a good idea to make it, okay? He looks like a thinner version of the penguin, okay? So, he is way overdressed. He has these magnificent clothes on, patent leather shoes, yellow gloves, light-colored gaiters, but he's just going to go talk to someone, a random detective. That's it. Why is he dressed like this?
What if he a detective though?
Sherlock Holmes?
Mm-hmm.
He's a detective. He's a private detective.
Oh.
So people would come to him with their issues, and he would help solve them, essentially.
Wow.
Not only all those things, okay, he advanced slowly into the room, turning his head from left to right, and swinging his right hand, the cord which held his golden eyeglasses. So all of his clothes on top of this idea, he's holding golden eyeglasses. What if this was made out of gold? These glasses.
Yeah, we would.
And I had it on a chain. And instead of wearing them and being really careful, I was just dangling them. Just like, this is terrifying me because I'm really scared of breaking these.
You're gonna
Right.
have a guy just run across and steal them like Sonic.
Right.
You know, run over.
My Sonic. So, that's what he's doing. This guy looks like he's over the top. And he is not fitting the part because he is, as he said, stooped, knees bent, looks like an old man walking, okay?
I can just imagine it.
You can imagine it, right?
Yeah.
Good day, Lord St. Simon, said Holmes, rising and bowing. Pray, take the basket chair. This is my friend and colleague, Dr. Watson. Draw up a little to the fire. We will talk this matter over. A most painful matter to me, as you can most readily imagine, Mr. Holmes. I have been cut to the quick. I understand that you have already managed several delicate cases of this sort, sir, though I presume that they were hardly from the same class of society. All right, I'm trying to play it up a little bit there, okay? But notice that last line. Can someone read it out for me, one of y'all? Read the last line out for me.
Wait, I gotta do the voice.
No, you don't have to do the voice.
Oh, no,
And
no,
I
no.
presume that they were hardly from the same class of society.
Yes, I assume they were hardly from the same class of society. What class of society is he from? The high class, middle class, low class?
High.
High class, right? We can just tell that from his noble background as judge, and also how he's dressed. So, he's sitting there, I know that you're a private detective, but I'm sure you've never worked with the high class before. Is that a slap in the face? Yes, it is.
Yes.
Right? If this is America, he'd probably be in the ground.
Yes.
So let's see how Sherlock Holmes responds. He says, no, I'm descending. What does descending mean?
Oh, you going down?
You're going down, right? He said, no. I'm not used to your class. I'm used to people above you. Who would be above a lord?
Okay.
Him.
Not a god.
Kings.
A king, all right? A king would be. So he says, no, I'm descending. I beg pardon. My last client of the sort was a king.
Oh, really?
Oh, really? I had no idea. And which king? The king of Scandinavia.
Wait. I want to do this part.
Okay, all right, hold on. Go ahead.
What? He lost his wife?
Very good.
Boy, you crazy.
Oh, that was awesome. So where is Scandinavia? Do y'all know?
No, I have no idea.
But
No
this
idea?
sounds like a fun place.
It is a foreign place. Scandinavia is the region of Norway and Sweden. All right, so over there in Europe, but much further north. This is Norway and Sweden, that area. Oh, that was amazing. I'm not even going to say that line just because he did it so well. You can understand, said Holmes suavely, that I extend to the affairs of my other clients the same secrecy which I promised to you and yours. Of course, very right, very right. I'm sure I beg pardon as to my own case. I am ready to give you any information which may assist you in forming an opinion. Thank you. I have already learned all that is in the public prints, nothing more. I presume that I may take it as correct this article, for example, as to the disappearance of the bride. Lord St. Simon glanced over it. Yes, it is correct as far as it goes. But it needs a great deal of supplementing before anyone could offer an opinion. I think that I may arrive at my facts most directly by questioning you. So here, Sherlock Holmes is going to start listing out a bunch of questions to this guy to kind of get his opinion. He's first going to ask really simple questions. For instance, when did you first meet her? You were traveling in the States. Did you become engaged then? So some things he can answer really fast. This is to make him stop in a few moments. When did you first meet Miss Hattie Doran? In San Francisco about a year ago. You were traveling in the States? Yes. Did you become engaged then? No. But you were on a friendly footing. I was amused by her society, and she could see that I was amused. Her father was very rich. He is said to be the richest man on the Pacific slope. And how did he make his money? In mining. He had nothing a few years ago, then he struck gold, invested it, and came up by leaps and bounds. Now, what is your own impression as to the young lady's, your wife's, character? Now, that's the important question here. All of a sudden, it goes from talking about where they met, how they met, who the father is, to what do you think of your own wife? And that's going to stump him for just a quick second. It's going to actually make him pause. It says, the nobleman swung his glasses a little faster and stared down into the fire. That's that moment of pause there. You see, Mr. Holmes, said he, my wife was 20 before her father became a rich man. During that time, she ran free in a mining camp and wandered through woods or mountains, so that her education was come from nature rather than from the schoolmaster. She is what we call in England a tomboy, with a strong nature, wild and free, unfettered by any sort of traditions. She is impetuous, volcanic. Right there, that word impetuous. It helps us understand what that word means with the word volcanic. That means you know when a volcano is just going to erupt? Not usually, it happens. So, impetuous means that she just erupts sometimes. She has feelings and then all of a sudden she acts on them. I was about to say she is as swift in making up her mind and fearless in carrying out her resolutions. That's what he means by impetuous and volcanic. On the other hand, I would not have given her the name which I have the honor to bear. He gave a little stately cough. Had I not thought her to be, at bottom, a noble woman. I believe that she is capable of heroic self-sacrifice, and that anything dishonorable would be repugnant to her. Repugnant, right here, is going to be disgusting. If you smell poop, all of a sudden, you would find it repugnant, or repugnant. You'd go, ugh, and go away. And that's what he said she would do if she found something dishonorable. Have you her photograph? I brought this with me. He opened a locket and showed us the full face of a very lovely woman. It was not a photograph, but an ivory miniature, and the artist had brought out the full effect of the illustrious black hair and large dark eyes, and the exquisite mouth. Holmes gazed long and earnestly at it. Then he closed the locket and handed it back to Lord St. Simon. The young lady came to London. Then and you renewed your acquaintance. Yes, her father brought her over to this last London season, and her several times, became engaged to her, and have now married her. She brought, I understand, a considerable dowry. A fair dowry. Not more than is usual in my family. Hold up. A fair dowry. How much is that dowry again?
6
Million, right? I think I just spelled million. Million there, okay? 16.8 million. Is that more than his family is worth right now?
Yes.
Remember, because his family used to be is royalty, but they're having to sell even their house paintings because they are out of money. So we know that this is a lie. And this, of course, remains to you, since the marriage is a fait accompli, or it is fair and accomplished. It is finished. Fait accompli is finished. It is done. I really have made no inquiries on the subject. Does it look fishy if I kill my wife and I'm sad for a while, of course, and then I start getting the money and start spending the money? Looks kind of sketchy, right? That's why he's not even touching the money yet. He has made no inquiries on the 16.8 million. Very naturally not. Did you see Miss Dorian on the day before the wedding? Yes. Was she in good spirits? Never better. She kept talking of what we should do in our future lives. Indeed, that is very interesting. And on the morning of the wedding, she was as bright as possible, at least until after the ceremony. And did you observe any change in her then? Well, to tell you the truth, I saw then the first signs that I had ever seen that her temper was just a little sharp. The incident, however, was too trivial to relate and can have no possible bearing upon the case. Pray, let us have it, for all that. Oh, it's childish. She dropped her bouquet as we went towards the vestry, or as they were entering, I believe, the wedding, I think. She was passing the front pew at the time, and it fell over into the pew. There was a moment's delay, but the gentleman in the pew handed it up to her again, and did not appear to be the worse for the fall. Yet when I spoke to her of the matter, she answered me abruptly. And in the carriage, on our way home, she seemed absurdly agitated over this trifling cause. Indeed, you say that there was a gentleman in the pew. Some of the general public were present. Remember, because who was invited? How many people? 6. They knew everyone that was supposed to be at the wedding. So who's this gentleman? That's what he's asking here. Is this part of the general public? Oh, yes, it is impossible to exclude them when the church is open. This gentleman was not one of your wife's friends? No. I call him a gentleman by courtesy, but he was quite a common-looking person. I hardly noticed his appearance, but really I think that we are wandering rather far from the point. Lady St. Simon then returned from the wedding in a less cheerful frame of mind than when she had gone to it. What did she do on re-entering her father's house? So let's go ahead and stop right there because the time we only have about 2 more minutes. So we're going to stop right there. Goodness. I wanted to try to get at least another half page done, but we're going to have to stop there for right now. So thank y'all so much for sharing and talking. Do y'all find that this story is a little bit more interesting than the last one?
Yes.